Hello, this is a little video to explain the program that I pieced together to run the circuit that you see before you here, an Arduino with a Datalogger shield connected to both a thermistor and a temperature probe. That is this thermistor and this temperature sensor, I guess it's called. Alright. So the program is nothing fancy. I actually put it together mostly from Adafruit's examples on how to run their SD card data logger, and they had another one, I think it was from Adafruit as well, about the thermistor and temperature probe. So just sort of piecing the programs together. I just kind of wanted to explain it a bit. So it's kind of long. The first thing I want you to do to just get a better look at this thing is go to your preferences. Now, most programming interface things called IDEs, they usually have these things enabled by default. I'm going to display line numbers and enable code folding. So you can see we've got line numbers here on the side. It's just a lot easier to refer to things if you're trying to talk to somebody about it, you know. And what code folding is now it's hard to see because the interface has its quirks, but there's the tiniest little symbol next to the 25 there, and that's going to fold this function. I'm clicking it. It's folding this get thermistor reading function, open and shut. It's not like it's gone or erased or even temporarily. It's just hidden from our eyes, but it's still there, as you can see from the line numbers. Now we're going from line 25 to 39, so it's the other lines are there, they're just hidden. So I shrunk all of the functions down so we can just see the entire program almost just on the page here, but it's actually 154 lines long. So let's just look at some of these functions. So I've written a little description on top. Get thermistor reading. This function reads and calculates the thermistor temperature, and it's called from the loop. So I wrote this function up here, and it's just an attempt to make things easier to read. If I make a function, I can put it up top and fold it shut and just assume that it'll work. So as you'll see, it's called from the loop, which means at some point I invoke this function and it sends me the temperature reading. And all of the little readings and conversions that are going on here, well, they're hiding up in this function rather than being down in my loop, making things look more complicated. Okay, so there's also a get temperature probe reading function, and there's an error function. So don't worry about the error function. Hopefully you'll never see it called, but when it's called, it essentially stops the program and turns on the red LED to indicate that there's been an error. Turns it on solid. The red LED also blinks at other times. So let's just look inside the setup function. So in the setup function, you can see I've got comments on the top of everything. This section sets up the serial port and the pins that are going to be used for the LEDs and such, sets them to output. Here we initialize the SD card. Here we make a connection to the real-time thing, RTC, what is this C? Anyways, that's attached to the data logger. And we create a file to be written to. So that file is going to be saved to the data logger. Every time you start up your chip, it creates a new file, and then as it's running, it saves to that file. It's a CSV, comma separated values file. And the last things in the setup here is, well, we just print a little header to the file, just letting us know what the values are that we're storing. So we're storing the milliseconds since this chip started running, the timestamp, which is the number of milliseconds since midnight, January 1st, 1970 or something like that. The actual date in a human readable format, date and time, and then we get the temperature reading from the thermistor and the temperature probe. I believe I'm doing those in Fahrenheit right now because I wanted to, as an American, I had a better feel for if I was getting a real reading or not when it was in Fahrenheit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fold the setup function back shut, and let's look inside the loop. So the loop is where most of the stuff happens. All right. So at the top of the loop, let's see, I'm going to get rid of this line actually. I made it simpler with this line here. Yeah, this program's just as simple as I could make it because I wanted to try to be able to explain it. So we've got a delay up here. Now this is the delay that we have set at the top of the program. It's the delay between readings. So if you want to read every second, up at the very top, I'm going to scroll to the top here, we've got log interval at 1000 milliseconds or 1 second. So that means that every second we're logging the temperature. And then while I'm here, this reads per write value. Well, what it says is only every 10 times that we read the temperature will we actually write that data to the card. Now it's good not to write to the card every time because it uses a lot of battery, and you could make this number even larger. I'm not sure exactly how large, but certainly larger than 10. And you'd save more battery, but you might risk losing all those 10 or 100 or however many reads you put there. You might lose that data if you lose power. If you write every time to the card, then that data's safe. But if you store it temporarily, 100 values temporarily before you write on the card, you could lose those values when you lose power. So I thought 10 was a good balance. And these other numbers are just some numbers that allow us to make some calculations in a few of the functions. Alright, so back in the loop, we set up a few more of the data objects and we log the time. Alright, and we print just a little bit to the serial port, but we make this longer log to the SD card file saying what time it is for this reading. And then I declare a couple of variables here, thermistor T, as in the temperature from the thermistor. And I call the functions up top that we discussed earlier. So you can feel free to look in those functions, or you can just trust that they work. And this is getting the Fahrenheit temperature currently from the device and saving it into this thermistor T variable. Thermistor T, I just got that. Okay. And then we're getting the temperature probe reading with that function and saving it into this other variable called thermometer T. Alright, so then we print those to the screen, or we save these to the file and print them to the serial port in case you wanted to monitor it with your computer. So that's thermistor T and thermometer T that we just got from the functions a second ago right here, and then we're saving them to the SD card right here. During this we had the green LED on, and now we're turning it off. It just blinks real fast as it's doing this stuff to our human eyes. So then we actually write this stuff to the SD card. So this right here is the part that makes sure you only write every so often. I'm doing it every 10 times. So, you know, it'll run every 10th time. And if it is the 10th, you know, every 10th time, then here is where the write actually takes place. And as you can see, we blink the red LED real quick when we light. So digital write high. This writes to the card, digital write low. Okay, and that's the end of the loop, which jumps us back up to the top, delays for however long, 1 second, and then starts again. So this loop in this particular program, the loop happens once every time the data is read. Alright, and I'll just take a quick peek, I guess, in these get temperature and get thermistor or whatever functions up here to note that here's the start of the function, here's where it closes, and this, that is all conversion. The only part where we're actually reading the data is this line right here. So we get the reading, do a bunch of conversion, and then right here you can see I'm returning temperature F, but I actually calculate both temperature F and temperature C, so if you prefer, you can just change that, and now when you call this get thermistor reading function, it'll actually return the temperature in Celsius. I'll put it back for now though. And same idea down here. Here in get temp probe reading, this is the line where we're actually reading from the hardware. This is conversion, and here's me returning temperature F, which you could change to temperature C or not. And that is about it. In this video description, I'll put this, either I'll just paste this entire program or I'll put a link to it somewhere. That's about what I wanted to say. Thanks.